Hello, my name is Laura Eaton. My final project is focused on career counseling for military personnel who have suffered from traumatic brain injuries. To start, let's introduce our population. Roughly 10% of the United States are veterans. 30% of veterans have disabilities as a result of their service. 28% of veterans have reported their disability kept them from getting a job. 46% of veterans not currently working cite their disability as a factor for being unable to get a job. Americans with Disabilities, ADA, and Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act, USERA, are supposed to protect individuals. The population that we're focusing on does have a disability. However, it is considered an invisible disability. This disability is traumatic brain injuries. Over 2 million service members have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan since September 11th. Of these 2 million, approximately 250,000 have been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. Traumatic brain injuries result in cognitive, emotional, and physical changes. Some cognitive issues that are a result of traumatic brain injuries are concentration issues, memory gaps, attention problems, difficulty expressing themselves, and slowed thinking. Some emotional issues are irritability, anxiety, depression, mood swings, and inability to cope. Some physical issues are headaches, sleep disturbances, dizziness, balance problems, nausea/vomiting, fatigue, visual disturbances, sensitivity to light, ringing in ears, and so much more. But sadly, it seems that little is known about the employment rate for veterans who have traumatic brain injuries. So why are we focusing on career counseling? Well, there's tangible benefits for those who have traumatic brain injuries. Career counseling and having a career helps the veterans with their ability to cope with life stressors and demands. Having a career increases their interaction and socialization with both their coworkers as well as clients. Of course, there's financial benefits. They have a sense of meaning in their life. It helps enhance self-esteem. It encourages self-sufficiency and independence. It provides access to employee benefits. And the biggest part is it contributes meaning and satisfaction in one's life. As we're talking about veterans with traumatic brain injuries getting a job, we also have to talk about the career concerns. People that are in the service may have some culture shock. They may experience a sense of loss in tradition to civilian life, as it's a very different life from what they used to lead. They may have a challenge figuring out transferable skills. They have very different skills that they've learned in their military experience. Some other issues include job preparation, as some people entered the military immediately after high school, and they haven't learned the skills to have a civilian job. And job search concerns. They've had this big, exciting life in the military, and Now they have to find civilian jobs, and they could find it boring and unfulfilling. But we know that career counseling and having a career is important. So it's important to focus on the different theories that should be applied into the career counseling. Through my research and literature, I found that the most important aspect of working with veterans in career counseling is to have strength-based focuses, to have future-oriented focuses. Another approach that kept coming up in the literature was cognitive approaches. The biggest one is cognitive information processing, which I'll talk about in a further slide, but it's to become effective in decision-making and problem-solving. Another thing to think about in counseling is to emphasize individual assets. The counselor should adapt the environment to the client, to emphasize the capacity for growth and change, and to consider the development of strength through challenges. The one theory that really stood out in one of the readings was Super's developmental theory. As we have been learning about Super's theory, I don't really want to dive too much into it. Basics are, according to Super, self-concept changes over time and develops as a result of experience. Super argues that occupational preferences and competencies, along with an individual's life situations, all change with time and experience. Super developed this concept of vocational maturity, which may or may not respond to chronological age. Some people cycle through different stages when they go through different career transitions. One of the literatures that I read discussed how it would be beneficial to include another band in the rainbow for military experience and for having a military spouse. Though there were many assessments that were discussed in different literature, the one that came up the most is cognitive information processing, or CIP. CIP creates a balance between perceptions and goal-oriented career exploration. It is a cognitive behavioral assessment. It helps with career problem solving and decision making. When doing this assessment, the counselor must adapt the interventions to the client's needs. This assessment helps expand knowledge of self, options, and decision-making skills. And one of the assessments within an assessment discusses communication, analysis, synthesis, valuing, and execution. Some other assessments they talked about is social cognitive career theory. This helps with self-efficacy, outcome expectations, and personal goals. Some other assessments discussed were the self-directed search forms and transferable skills inventories assessments. Now, just to dive in a little bit more deeper to CIP, there are different sections that can be included. One of those is Career Thoughts Inventory, or CTI. It measures dysfunctional thinking and career problem solving and decision making involving a single global indicator of dysfunctional thinking with subscales examining decision making, confusion, commitment anxiety, and external conflict. This entire assessment really focuses on reframing negative thoughts, as they may have many thoughts thinking that they don't have these skills or they're better off elsewhere. This is very specific to help reframe negative thoughts. Another assessment in CIP is self-directed search. It helps explore interests and the environment. There's also Veterans and Military Occupations Finder. And there's also ONET. There are many different assessments as well as references that could help veterans in their search for a career. So what are some takeaways from this whole presentation? How do we work with people that are veterans that have traumatic brain injuries? Well, the number one focus is to have hope/strength-based practices. We have to be able to show them that they are more than they think they are. We have to really focus on all of the things that they can do. Another really important thing to take away is to have a cognitive behavioral approach. It's very important to help people reframe how they're thinking and how they're acting because of the way they're thinking. And the last takeaway is the most prominent assessment, which is cognitive information processing. It came up in all of the different literatures that I found on this topic. It is very important to pay attention to this in a career counseling session. Now that I've learned all of this, what can I do? What can I take away and be able to use in my creative arts therapy career? Well, in creative arts therapy and music therapy, teaching an instrument is huge to be able to create a sense of mastery, which helps improve sense of self. As we're really focusing on strength-based focuses and reframing their thoughts, this is an intervention that I think would go really well. Another intervention could possibly be improvisation based on different ideas of careers. See what they're interested in, what they're really not interested in. The improvisation could be for many different things. Improvisation is just incredible like that. The biggest thing I wanted to kind of take away from this slide is my culminating project really focuses on creative arts therapies, or more specifically music therapy, working with other rehabilitation therapies with people that have traumatic brain injuries. I think that that project would really be applicable to this final project. So stay tuned for the colloquium. And of course, we have to talk about ethical considerations. Having career counseling with a veteran involves a lot of encouragement, as they may have a more negative way of thinking. Working with a veteran includes honoring efforts and struggles. There has to be discussion through adversity. And of course, we need to account for organized elements such as race, class, gender, ability, and context within the counseling interaction. And something else to consider in the counseling session is their branch, their rank, and their experiences related to their military background. This slide is here because we discussed different sources that your clients could use for searching for a career earlier in a discussion board, and I thought that it might be beneficial to put it up here with my presentation. Here are my references that I used. And thank you.